may have played poker, but playing poker in Texas is a different animal. This is the Texas Poker Podcast with Tyler and Clint.
Hello, this is the Texas Poker Podcast. I'm Tyler. This is Clint.
What's up, y'all?
And we are back. And I guess kind of some big news this week. I heard you moved up in stakes for the first time in Houston, at least.
Yeah, it kind of naturally happened. The new club in College Station, which, I mean, I'll tell you what, like, I can't say enough about how good this club is. Texas Avenue Social. I mean, you're in Houston, so you have all these amazing clubs. It's really nice to have, like, a super nice club to go at. And they have been running 5-5. So I called in with no intention, but ended up on the 1-3 and the 5-5 list. And ended up playing 1-3 for about 2 to 3 hours. The 5-5 was filled. They keep the 5-5 very full. And once there was a seed, I was kind of hesitant, but I was like, well, I kind of want to take my shot. I kind of want to see what it's like over there. Because, I mean, if it's a right table, it could be very profitable in the long run. And I tell you what, it was... I think I'm always scared of going to 1-3, and you get, like... Because you get the occasion... You get the fish and all that. Going to 5-5 and actually being the fish is not something I'm looking to do. But it was a ton of action. I mean, it was people looking to gamble. So, which is the type of table I really love to see.
Absolutely. So, but you said when you bought in, you were pretty severely short-stacked, right?
Yeah, I go in there, and I've been doing good at 1-3. So, I'm sure I bought in for like 400, and I think I had it at like 550. I mean, nothing crazy, but a little profitable. I go over there and I'm like, well, I add another 100 or 200. I think I added another 100. So I was like at 650. I was like, that's fine. No, you know, the buy-in's probably normal buy-in's 500. I sit down, like the least stacked on that table was like 1,500 or something. I mean, the shortest stack had me over doubled. I was like, oh God, what in God's name did I just come to?
It's always kind of funny when you're the new person, you sit down, you see a gigantic raise, and then you're just like, oop, time for me to go back to 1-3. Just not even take it out of the rack and just tell you to take me off the list, man.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on over here.
You're like, these guys are crazy.
Yeah. And then I was seeing like all these pots, like I saw like 4 pots in a row where I would have been all in. I was like, oh good God.
Man, that's kind of one of the things, like, when you play in a game that you're like the short stack like that, I've noticed, is like you don't want to get the disasters when you get in a multi-way pot and you kind of end up in the crossfire of being all in now, but your stack is so short to the pot that they're still playing, so it's like you just naturally end up all in so early.
Yeah, well, because, even like, let's say the play is crazy. That's great. You will be profitable in the long run, but the variance is, I mean, you're basically playing one hand, and, you know, like a lot of it's PLO where it's draw heavy. If you don't hit, I mean, guess what? It's easy to miss 3 draws in a row and be in for, you know, my normal, $1,500, $1,600 and be just getting crushed and come over here and crying about it on the podcast and being like, Tyler, I suck at this game again.
Well, it's kind of like also, I mean, the variance will even out, but it never evens out if you have no money and you're driving home.
Yeah, very true. So, I mean, but yeah, it was really it's been kind of a cool experience to kind of move up. I mean, especially, like, I had barely ever played anything other than 1-3. Then Vegas, I take shots at 2-5. Then I come here and somehow think I'm a 5-5 player. I mean, God knows, you might see me on, you know, Mariano's vlog, like 5-10 or 10-20 tomorrow. At this point, I seem to be out of control.
I mean, it has to kind of... Are you at least concerned with your bankroll when moving up? Because I know... I mean, 1-3, you're pretty much set, right? But
1-3, I mean, yeah, I would take... I guess, as long as you're a profitable player, I mean, it would be very hard for me to go, you know, bankrupt at 1-3. 5-5, yeah, it is a concern. I think it's too profitable not to play here and there. It's just, I don't think I'm super short for it, but it's definitely on the upper end of that spectrum. I mean, it's definitely a concern. I will say that.
Especially when they're doing round of each. That's, to me, is whenever it can get a little bit dicey, because that's, I mean, the most variance, right?
It is, but like I say, there's a lot of high-low in there, which is actually probably less variance than Hold'em.
Right, now I was thinking PLO high.
Oh, on the PLO high, I mean, yeah, I'm shitting my bridges.
I was about to say, as far as rolled for that, Clint, I don't even have enough assets counting my house for that.
Yeah. I mean, if it's PLO high, I mean, it could be 1-3-1-2, and I might not be bankrolled for that.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting, because I know, I mean, when you move up, I mean, you move up whenever you're obviously bankroll for your game, then you move up. But you're way less bankroll for that game when you move up. That's the whole, point for moving up, right?
Yeah, and I still want to mix in a lot of 1-3-1-2. Because, I mean, okay, I did this to shot take, kind of, and then I haven't, every time I've gone there, it's been 5-5 now. So, that's not what I was planning, but I don't know. It's very hard. I mean, if you have the ability to go to a game that is a lot more profitable, because it's not only that the one that is bigger stakes than 1-3, a lot of times the game has been better. So, I mean, if it's a profitable 5-5, and I mean, it's been very good to me so far. It's then like I say, I'm not short on it, but is it a concern in the long run on a downswing that this could hurt me? 100%.
Right, because I mean, going on a 10 buy-in downswing is very possible. I mean, it's happened to everyone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, it wouldn't break me, but it'd hurt me.
I'm sure I'd hear about it.
Oh, God, you're going to hear so much about it. Hey, you are not going to be a happy person. If I'm going to be miserable, I'm going to make sure you're miserable right with me.
It's like, you're going to start hearing from me after 2 buy-in downswing.
We all have leaks in our game. We know that one of my leaks is not taking a downswing very well. I admit that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're gonna have to see. I guess time will tell on how profitable it is and how it just affects how the bankroll manages it and all of that. But, well, like I say, I want to mix. I still want to be. I would like to do like maybe 50% 1-3, and then 50% 5-5, and I think that would be about perfect.
Right, and super cool hearing that College Station's getting games running regularly. If I think at the beginning of this podcast, not at episode 4 or 5, we were talking about how new rooms were just opening up, and you were happy to hear that poker was coming more to your side of town.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you just shot out, like, on our hourlies, we're pretty comparable, right?
Right.
And on our bankrolls, you murdered me because you get to play so much more than me. Because remember, we're only about 9 months away from there being only one room to play in College Station, it being open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, in which Friday was tough, Saturday's a no-go. I mean, Wednesdays and Thursdays, if it's the only 2 days of the week, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. Now, there's officially like 4 rooms, with Texas Avenue, the most recent one, being by far the super nice one. And I'll tell you what, like I say, does a great job. The guy who I'd played with him before, and when he opened it, I knew he was really good on construction. He has his own company and all that, and I had no doubt that it was going to be good that way. But as far as I know, it had no dealer experience, no running a game experience. It was liked to play poker a lot, but I wouldn't say like me and you, just kind of obsessed with the little details. And I don't see him watching 5 straight hours of vlogs like me and you will do, or going on Crush Live and watching 3 of their super dry but very informative videos. So I was kind of worried. I was like, it might be nice, but is it going to be run well? Tell you what, that game, it is run so well. The attention to detail in that room is amazing.
Kind of interesting to see, like, from a poker mind running a room to someone with a very high level business mind running a room.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell just some people are really, really good at what they do as far as business sense. And at the end of the day, it's just another business. I mean, you have all the customer service and all the details of that. So having the ability to play, because it doesn't matter how good you are, if you have no ability to play, you're not going to be profitable.
Yeah, true.
So it's so that's been really good for us. So it's been nice. Now with the bankroll stuff, I've noticed this, and this is kind of a leak that I used to have in Hold'em. I don't know if it's a leak or not, but once I get to a certain point, especially let's say I buy in for 600 and I go up to 2,000. I don't get skittish there, but once I get down, but like say I hit like a stumbling block and I get down to 1,000, I've been real bad. I mean, I don't know if it's bad, but I want to cash out. I hate going from that profitable session to the unprofitable. Even though, really, in all honesty, it should be more about the time that you're playing, the game that you're playing, and your odds are no worse than they were before. But now I feel a little more protective of my wins, and I think that could be a pretty big leak in my game.
Well, I guess here's how I would maybe think of it. Jonathan Little said something pretty interesting. I've heard probably a year ago now. Just because your hourly is what it is, if you're not playing how you would play to keep that hourly is not really your hourly. So, like, let's say you showed up and you were drunk, right? And then, let's say you're making, let's just say $20 an hour, right? Whenever you're sober and playing. But you show up and you drink and you're thinking that you're going to make $20 an hour. You're not going to make $20 an hour because you're not playing at that level. Same thing as if you show up and you have a bad headache and all of a sudden you're playing differently because I kind of feel like if your mind is trying to leave and you're playing differently, just because you're profitable playing, if you're adjusting your game for something is less profitable, I feel like maybe getting up and leaving is the move.
Well, I mean, that's a good point. 'Cause, okay, let's say someone, I'm not saying me or you, but let's say their average is 20 an hour.
Sure.
So what you're really saying is their average is 20 an hour, but when they're playing their best, they're probably making 40 an hour. And when they're playing their worst, they're probably just a break-even player. So really by just eliminating when you're playing your worst, you're actually just moving up your hourly a little bit.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like, so like you say you kind of play, would you say it's worse? Would you say you play worse because you're protecting it? Like you will sometimes, if a call is correct, is correct, but you will sometimes not make it to protect that lead or that profit?
I will say it's worse if I know like I wasn't playing well. Like if I just got coolered or something, then it kind of is what it is. But if I did things that I know I should have done better, and then at that point I think it can be a little worse.
I mean, because that was kind of not my thing, but this is kind of something I've learned. I mean, I guess I've kind of known it, but just reiterate it, is I feel like my hourly is what it is, and then when the sessions become too long, I start to play worse, and that hourly definitely takes a hit, because you start getting too loose pre-flop, you start making a few loose calls, you just kind of, your mind kind of wanders, and you kind of not really playing your best. So to say your hourly is something when you're playing your best, but if you notice it starts to dip back down whenever you're, for whatever reason, you're tired, you're hungry, you want to leave, I would say leaving is not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, it's something I've noticed. It's something I noticed when I was at 2-5 over in Vegas too. So I don't know. I mean, and here's the thing, like, and again, I don't think it's the best way to think about it, but okay, let's say I was up 1,400 and I come back down and I'm like down up 250. Well, let's say 250 a day. I mean, I was like, if I average that every time I went in there, it'd be amazing. So I kind of like, well, it might not be a much. It's not a huge for any great session. But I mean, if I averaged 250 every time I went in there, played 5 days a week, I mean, you're looking at almost 4,000. Well, almost exact, a little over 4,000 a month. I'm like, oh, that's still pretty good. But that being said, the time, you want to get the hours in, because if you're averaging, let's say 25 an hour, you want to get as many hours in as possible. So I guess they're both good and bad, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like got to walk that fine line.
So, but it's just something I've noticed that I hadn't noticed before in a while. One thing I was going to talk about that, like I say, you really taught me is I have been bluffing more and more, and it is working amazingly.
But see, I think you're bluffing differently than I'm bluffing, which is kind of what's interesting.
Am I bluffing differently? I feel like my bluffs are very. Well, how are you bluffing usually? I mean, are you just like I am, kind of looking at situations like where it's amazing how when you're not thinking about bluffing that much beforehand, you don't really see all the opportunities. But once you start, I mean, like those scare cards and like how they run out are just so apparent.
Right, especially like when that top card on the flop changes, an over comes on the turn, and then, you just put your 3-barreling shoes on and you're ready to just the whole way through.
So it's yeah, I mean, I was always under the impression like 1-3 people can't fold hands and you should just be value betting. I still think that's 90% of it. But I will say, man, the bluff here and there, if it's in the right situation, like you say, like scare cards, if you put someone on top pair and the flush draw hits, or something like that, just whenever the board gets scary, not everybody. Some people are just never folding, and if you're trying to bluff them, that's on you. But I have noticed this is actually something pretty damn profitable in the long run as well.
So my thing when I said that we bluff differently is we both bluff at, like you were saying, different turn cards and stuff. But oftentimes I'll bluff, and when I get caught, because you sound like you haven't been caught yet, right?
Right.
I get caught constantly, right? No big deal.
Okay, I got you. No, I see your point.
But yeah. I wouldn't call that super profitable getting caught constantly. But I'm using these bluffs, as not insurance, but kind of like putting money in the bank to where whenever, actually it's the exact opposite of putting money in the bank. But I'm using that as to build like credit towards whenever I overbet the river, that it could be a bluff, or it could be, a nutted hand, and I'm gonna get called or paid off a lot lighter a lot of the time.
Okay, well, this leads to another topic on this, is showing the bluff versus not showing the bluff. Because it seems like if you're bluffing, you're just going to show it every single time.
Me, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'm guessing part of it is like you say you're kind of building it to where you get paid off for your big hands. I mean, part of it, especially with certain type of people, if they know you're capable of bluffing and they know the minute they fold, you're showing it, I mean, their pride might have them calling stuff they shouldn't be calling, because, nobody wants to fold the hand and have some jackass table a hand that should never be in there and be like, ha ha ha, took one off of you. So if really, in all honesty, the way you're doing it, it's almost like you almost really need to show the bluff.
Right, because I had one where I had a hand I should never have. I think I had 6-9 offsuit, right? And then put in a bluff on some guy. That sounds dicey.
You're right, we do bluff differently.
But I ended up taking down a big pot on the river, representing a flush, and he folded, And I showed the bluff. Obviously, I told him, I said, "Good work, dealer," because that got dicey quick. Showed the 6-9. I was like, that seemed like those guys were serious.
Yeah. I tell you what, I've done it a couple times, and I'm like, I don't know how people are responding to Tyler. They're not responding well when I do it.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah,
it's not great.
It makes for a very awkward session after that.
Yeah, but I bluff everyone, so it's fine. Or like I'll try. It's not like I'm singling anyone out, or showing versus one person, not versus others. But I mean, that's just the nature of. And then here's something else I've been doing, which has been surprisingly profitable, is bluffing small, making it look like value. Too sometimes.
Oh yeah, I can see. Well, I can see. Okay, well, we always like one of my big things is from the Ed Miller book of the threshold. So, and it's got the threshold of nobody like if somebody has top pair and they're just not capable of folding it, you should never try to bluff them off of it. But same thing with the hands they're willing to call with. So if somebody is never capable of calling ace high, if you could throw a small bet out there, I mean, you could just rack up money. I mean, you could bet 15%, 20% a pot, and if they're not going to call with that hand, I mean, and you only have to get that through. Very few for that to be profitable. And you're saying it has been pretty profitable for you?
Yes, and I'm definitely thinking they're not. They have better than ace high based on their reactions. So, I mean, definitely not trying to get ace high to fold. But I mean, like when the flush comes in, and I'm pretty sure they're on like a king because king's a top card or whatever, and I couldn't get them off of it. And then representing the flush and then betting pretty small, hoping that they pay it off. Well, hoping they pay it off, but making it look like I hope they pay it off. That's been pretty profitable because good players, I mean, that just reeks of value. I mean, when you bet 1/3 pot when the front door flush comes in and they're sitting there with top pair, mediocre kicker.
God, yeah, I guess a third pot would be, yeah, I think 20% a pot would be too small unless you are trying to get like just bigger, like ace high or something to fold. 30%, I can see that. I mean, that's big, because you're right, that's big enough that they're getting good pot odds, but nothing crazy. And it looks so value heavy.
And then when you turn that bluff over, you're getting a lot of calls after that.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely see that. So, it's... yeah, I will say, like, I'm glad I added this to my game, because it's been... And not to mention, like you say, a lot of fun to pull off a bluff. Way more fun than just grinding it out to no end. And... I had only said it's just like something that I hadn't done that much, and I had been profitable, so I didn't feel the need to add that into the arsenal. But I have found that you've got me sold on it. I think it should be rare. I definitely don't think you should be. Tyler's like rare, like 80% of the time I'm in a hand. It's 20%. I'm just doing nothing. So yeah. So I'm only doing it once or twice, maybe a session, probably even less than that, really. But I definitely find it super profitable in the long run to do this.
Well, my whole thing was acting like getting caught bluffing is a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I mean, in the moment it's not great, but the information it gives for people to now call you light, you can use in your advantage as well.
Well, I think we also need to clarify that that would only really come into play if you're either playing a super long session or you're playing with people that you play with a lot, right?
Yes, but I mean, even if you're playing a 2-hour session with someone, if they see you bluff early on in the session, I mean, I just think you're going to get lighter calls in general. I mean, I get lighter calls all the time. Like you said, I'll get calls by stuff that you would never get called by.
Oh, 100% you do. Oh, yeah. Probably more, yeah, probably definitely, it's probably even better for me because my group of players that I play with is so much smaller than yours that everybody's going to see that, everybody's going to remember it. And so, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know, you can try mixing it in, but there's different ways to mix it in, hoping not to get caught, or mixing it in to get caught and then get value later. So,
Yeah. But yeah, it's so I'm gonna do that. Went to, let me see what else happened. So I use you. Oh, good lord, just all kinds of problems. As you know, me and you were watching the Ben Deach vlog, and he said he was going to the lodge. Lodge is only like an hour 10 minutes away from me. It was a place I was playing at a whole lot before College Station started to open up more and more rooms. So I'm like, it's on a weekday. We both work weekends. I'm like, ooh, I don't have to take off work or any of that. And I haven't been to the lodge forever and a day. So I go there. It's a Tuesday. If you've never been to the lodge on a Tuesday, there's no more packed poker place than the lodge. Because they run this free roll that gets, it's like 140, 150 people in it. And then you have all the just crazy cash games that's there. So I go there and I'm playing. And as I'm playing, I'm looking for Ben Deach, but there's 1,000 tables. Never see him. I was like, and I find it weird being a grown man going and asking if another grown man's playing poker. I find that super weird. So I wasn't going to go ask about it. But but I just sit there and played. I ended up with a $300 win on a decently tough table too. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna call it good and be there.
It's pretty funny. You go up to the floor. Is Ben Deach here? What? You know him? No? You guys aren't friends? No, I just saw him on the internet. Want to go say hi?
I mean, everybody who's going to a meetup game
Right.
would be doing that. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't mind going to the meetup games. I love going to the meetup games. But just going and asking, I don't know. It seems like an awkward question to ask. But yeah, I don't know. I was, and then he came out with his next vlog that he had jury duty or something. So I was like, well, whatever. I really like going to the lodge anyway, so it gave me an excuse to go. Oh, and rumor has it they're expanding that place, which I know you've never been there. This place is freaking huge. I heard they bought out like the place next to it, and it's gonna be. I mean, the tournaments they're gonna be running are just gigantic. It's gonna be, I think, one of the biggest places to play poker in Texas.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, they seem to be getting all the right people there too, right? On their live stream, the gigantic live stream, they're getting all the vloggers, all the just seems like everything's going very well for them.
Yeah, I definitely think it's become the place to play. Man, I love the fact that live stream, them constantly getting the vloggers out there. I find that so fun and interesting. They just continue to do everything just really the right way. So I don't know. I wish it was a little bit closer and they would get a lot more of my business.
Absolutely.
So let's see. So that's kind of it for what's been. Oh no, I want to go over one hand. I was over at 5-5, and this is not gonna make me look good.
Yeah, so when you told me, and I was like, yikes, whenever you called me on the phone with it.
This is going to make the listeners wonder why I'm playing 5-5.
Wait, but it'll let them know 5-5 is greatly profitable.
Yeah, because of people like me. Okay, so I have... it's not even going to start out well. We're playing PLO high. I have 3, 4, 6, 7. Obviously, I call. Because who's folding 3, 4, 6, 7? Which can make a lot of straights. I don't mind it as a hand. I mean, I wish they were a little bit higher, but well, shit happens. You can only play what you're dealt. It's basically limps around for the entire table, and the flop comes 5-3-9. I flop just insane amounts of draws. I'm looking for like any 8, any of that. So what was it? Early position bets 30. One person calls and I call. I'm like, well, I've got a ton of outs here. On the turn, it comes a 7. I'm in early position. I check. I'm like, can I never hit a draw? The next player bets 100. The other player calls. I'm like, I still have a lot of outs.
So the 7 did not give you a straight. The 7 gave you more outs, correct?
In my mind at this point, yes.
Okay, I thought so. That's
Yeah.
right. 'Cause I was gonna say, okay, all right. I don't want to ruin your story. Continue.
Yeah.
I was
well, everybody's wondering this. Anybody who knows poker is like, what the hell's happening here? So he bets 100. The other guy calls. I'm like, ooh, I got odds to kind of draw this straight. Well, I'm looking at my hand, and I'm debating on, like, there's only one card to come. Well, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I hit the straight. I hit the nut straight.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. So I'm like, so I go from like, oh, wait. So I keep looking back and forth at the PLO hand to that hand. One, to make sure it's a nut straight. One, to make sure I didn't think I had a straight. To make sure that I actually do have a straight. And then realize I have the nuts on this hand that I was about to call or fold with. And now it's 2 to a flush. It's both 2 spades and 2 clubs out there. I'm like, well, calling's off the table. There's way too many draws out there. I have the nuts. I jam it in for 600. They both tank fold. So they both had shitloads of outs. But that's how good of a PLO player I am. I'm like, oh, why can't I hit my draws when I nail them right in the fucking target?
That's pretty funny.
So I'm start looking for those 5-10 PLO tables. This isn't enough. So how you been running, man? What have you been up to?
So I actually went to some new poker rooms this week, which is kind of fun, interesting, right? So I swing by Paramount, and they're pretty close to me, but still 88 is closer. But I swing by anyway. I walk in, and I immediately notice that instead of those brown little chairs, they have these new fancy chairs. I was like, oh, that's pretty nice.
Were they a lot more comfortable?
Oh yeah, way more comfortable.
That's it. It seems small, but that's a huge thing for a poker room.
Yeah, especially if you're gonna play for a long time.
No kidding.
So, it's one of those situations where when you're running hot, I mean, not much anyone can do, right?
Were you just running insanely hot that night?
Yeah, I mean, I was just drilling. I mean, hit sets, and then I check raise with a flop set on a draw heavy board, turning quads once all the money gets all in, and I mean, stacking 2 people at the same time, kind of thing.
You're never sad to have quads.
Yeah, very rare you lose with quads. So I mean, stack those, but I mean, you're running hot when you just get all the money in and drill your hand. So I mean, I hit that hand, and then I got it all in with ace king versus kings and lost. I was like, well, I mean, I can't complain after hitting all my big hands and then losing once. Like, it's fine.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I have.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good. Well, did you have a pretty decent profit that night?
Pretty decent profit. I think I won like 2 buy-ins at the 1-2 game, so that was nice. And then I was like, man.
What are your buy-ins? Like, are you buying in? Were you buying in for 200?
300.
300.
So I made a little bit over 7. So.
Shit, that's not a bad night. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah. So I was like, well, this is great. So then I was like, I've been on the new, now I went to that new room. I was like, I'll go to another new room. So I was like, we went to the Hideaway, and I was like, I look on the poker atlas, I see they have 2 games running. And I was like, well, I'll just go there. Might as well.
Well, we went that once, and I was severely impressed about how nice that room was. So I was glad to see you get I'm glad to see you give them some business.
Well, my whole thing was, it wasn't, I wanted to see them, because when we went, it was kind of in the middle of the day. I wanted to go kind of during prime hours.
Right.
So I went, I see the 1-3 game going. I buy in for 500. I have my chips in my hand. And then the game breaks before I sit down. I was like, oh, man, they had 2 open seats. And now I went from walking onto the table to now not playing. Right now I'm on the list. I was like, this is not great.
Yeah.
And not only is it not great, the new game I'm going to is a 1-1 game.
1-1. That is... I find that weird that it was a 1-1 game, especially with one game going.
Well, but I think it was someone was running like more of a private game kind of thing, but the stacks were super deep, so it played basically like a 1-3 game.
I have played in some 1-1 games like that before.
I mean, I bought in for 5, and I was not the deepest stack, so.
That is so weird to be that deep stacked at 1. I mean, at least make it 1-2. I mean, I don't think you need a $1,500 stack size at 1-1. It just seems kind of crazy to me.
Right, but I guess if the open size is 15, it doesn't kind of ceases to matter, right? Kind of like a blindless game almost, which is kind of weird, but
Yeah, that's kind of my thinking. I'm like, okay, well, I don't think my open size is ever to 15, and if it's 1-1, I mean, I'm paying 15 to steal the blinds for $2. I mean,
but you're paying 1-1 or you're paying 15 to see it multi-way. So
yeah, I was like, I think I would think my open size would be like more to 5, like 5 or 6 or something like that, right?
not if you're not getting any folds. You kind of have to play your table, right? I mean, if you bet 15 and the whole table calls.
I guess so. Yeah,
Right? I mean,
yeah, that makes sense.
And I mean, if you bet 5, you might get laughed out the door. So
Well, I don't want to get laughed out the door, so I guess I'm betting 15. No one wants to be that guy.
it's like I came to play, not get laughed out the door.
Yeah, came to play and I get bullied. Shit.
Yeah, so if you were playing at my 1-1 game and you bet 5, I'd bully you. No.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to bet 5 and be like, hey, get the fuck out of here, clown.
That's funny. But, well, pretty tough 1-1 game because I got destroyed in that 1-1 game. I ended up, I mean, just PLO coolers, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if it's really a cooler playing bad, but I ended up with...
You told me what you had. I mean, you had second nuts to the nuts like 3 times. They were definitely coolers.
Yeah, I mean, basically just turning a boat to someone's bigger boat. I mean,
Yeah.
when I had blockers to the nuts, but that's fine. So that's how you...
It sounds real fine when you say it that way.
Yeah, it's fine. All I learned is if you have second nuts, you should fold. But yeah, that's how you lose $1,000 in a 1-1 game.
Well, shit.
Maybe I should bet 5. Get laughed out and go home.
Yeah, no shit. Maybe that open range should be to 5.
Yeah, so I guess who am I to critique?
You would have lost $333.
So yeah, so I mean that was interesting, I guess. I didn't like it much. And then I went to so I said, well, I'm going back to where I've been playing. So I went back to 88 because like these 1-1 games, tough.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. Sounds horrible.
And I guess we have the notes for the 6-7 spades hand.
The 6-7 spades hand. Yeah, I got it right here. So because this one I found super interesting.
So I have 6-7 of spades in the big blind. Villain raises a 20. We get 2 callers, counting myself. So someone called. I said, this seems reasonable to call, tag along with, especially playing deep stack versus the villain.
Right.
The flop comes 8-8-9, 2 spades. Villain leads out for 40. So
you flop open-ended straight flush.
Yes.
Wow. What a fucking flop, man. Okay, go on.
So, what's it called? The villain bets 40. The other guy calls the 40. I call the 40. I was like, well, this, and then the other player who called the 40 was a high action player.
Here's a question. Did you think about re-raising?
I thought about it for sure. Then I remember your story of raising draws, and I called.
If you heard my stories, then yeah, you're definitely calling. Okay.
Immediately drill the 10 of spades out of the blind. So I check it over to the guy. He bet 65.
So the 10 of spades is completing your straight flush. 6, 7,
Yes.
8, 9, 10 of spades. Okay, very nice.
And I'm so cautious. I'm worried about the other end of the straight flush. But no. I'm like, well, that'll probably be a cooler. So I check into the original raiser. He bet 65. The other guy calls a 65.
You love to see that. I mean, not only someone leading out, but a call as well.
So I was like, I don't want to scare anyone off, right?
Right.
So I raise it to 200. That seems reasonable, right? To kind of keep everyone in.
Yeah, I like it. I think that's a good bet.
So I make it 200. The original raiser calls, and the player I wanted in there, I thought he folds. The river brings the queen of hearts, so basically a brick, right?
Right.
What are you doing on this river? I love the check raise on the turn to now have the betting lead, but
I think I'm bet. I'm okay. I definitely think this is time for a big bet because you're so strong here with the big straight flush, and once it goes, your action is so strong on the turn because it goes bet call, you check raise with another guy in there, and then you get called. Now he has to have a pretty big hand to call you there.
right. And my whole thing is the board is 8, 8, 9, 10, but the front door flush comes in on a paired board. So I'm kind of like, well, I didn't really know what to bet, but I knew I wanted to size up for sure because there's a ton of stuff that could call me, right? So I make it 500, and villain is just basically like, I call, just basically a snap call. And you already know if it's a snap call like that, you probably
Should have bet more. Yeah.
yeah, and he was just like, I guess he had the ace high flush. And he was never folding.
I mean, easy to say now that once he snap calls, he has the ace high flush, but so we got 20, 40, 60 pre-flop, 120, 180, 245. Oh God. Okay, so it wasn't quite a pot size bet. It looks like it was probably like a 75, 80% pot.
Right, and the worst part is we were both so deep.
Are you? So I mean, in now that you know, do you think a jam is just too much if you just jam it in there? I mean, I'm not saying I would. I don't think in that situation I would have, because I think a lot you're letting he might fold an ace high of spades right there, because I mean there is a boat out there, and I'm trying to get a call here, but here's the question: is do you think it's the right move to jam?
Man, I think the real mistake was not betting a little bit bigger on the turn. I would have liked to see a little bit of a bigger bet there, I think.
That's true. Well, I mean, and there's still a lot of bluffs on the turn.
Right.
Because, I mean, the single ace of spades could do this. I mean, I don't think it should, but it could. I mean, so, Jack 10, maybe? Wait, it was 8, 9, 10, Queen Jack with a spade?
Right, that would have been.
I mean, there's a lot of things it could be. Maybe a little bit bigger on the turn makes sense. I mean, I kind of liked your raise size, though, because, I mean, you're kind of hoping to keep both of them in there.
Right.
Because let's say both of them call, then that pot's quite a bit bigger, and you end up betting bigger on the river as well.
True. So I think that would have led to a bigger bet on the river as well. And I think 500 felt like the right bet at the time, but I think it maybe should have been even a little bit bigger. But maybe 500 was just enough to get the ace high flush to call.
I think knowing what he had, I think you could get out more, but I don't know. I kind of like the way you played it. I mean, I think the turn bet maybe could have been a little bit bigger, and subsequently the river bet a little bit bigger. I think you definitely could make it pot on the river.
I agree.
Yeah. So, but
can't play every hand right. I mean, perfect. So.
Well, is that did you hit that the same night you were getting destroyed at Hideaway?
No. This was the next day. Yeah.
I was like, well, good recovery there. Nice to hit a straight. Always nice to hit a straight flush and get. I mean, I'm just shocked you got paid off. Usually I get a straight flush or something like that, and I bet 20, and it's fold. So, I mean, good job.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what happened last time I had a straight flush. I flopped a straight flush, actually. This was probably a year ago. So, I'll be holding out to my next one. So I guess here's kind of a interesting follow-up story to that guy who was stealing chips last episode. Do you remember him?
Okay, so from what I remember, it was a weird situation where he went to call. The lady thought he did call. He thought he didn't, and then ended up awarding her the chips, and then tried to steal them back with his arms crossed over. Right?
Yes, I feel like that's not doing the story justice. Go back, listen. But
I mean, it's a super interesting story, but I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't want to go all the way into.
so earlier in the session, that same player was playing with one of his friends came to the table or whatever, and before his friend came to the table, I actually bluffed him out of his shoes and showed it, and that made him just downright giddy. So, I mean, this player, he's yelling at the dealer one time, and the dude was like, you need to tell me what they're saying across the table because I can't hear it. All sorts of stuff, getting into it with the dealer and stuff. And then I showed the bluff, and I was like, eh. And then, then his friend comes to the table, and then he wins a decent sized pot. I mean, it wasn't a crazy pot. He wins a pot, and he tells his friend, he says something like, "See, that's why you call me the master," is what he told his friend, right? And I was like, oh God, I was like, could you imagine being the other friend calling anybody a master?
I can't imagine being the guy saying it. I mean, how big of a jackass do you have to be like, they call me the master?
I just scoop in $150. Right. So now we get tangled up in a hand with him. So I have King 9 offsuit in the big blind. He raises pretty big, right? I mean, for him is big because normally he's not. So
Okay.
he raises a 20. And I look at my hand, and I'm like, oh, God. I'm pretty sure he has ace, king, kings, aces, something like that, right?
Okay.
But I had to account for the implied odds of the satisfaction of busting him, right?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
So I was like, this is probably a call once you consider the implied odds of the satisfaction. So I call.
Okay.
Another limper calls, right?
So you're in there, $20, King 9 offsuit, and $60 in the pot to the flop.
Yes.
Okay.
The flop comes King 8-9, 2 hearts. And I'm like, we got him. I already know we got him.
Oh, flopping 2 pair, most definitely.
Well, especially versus this player who's never going to have, nines, eights, something like that whenever he raises pre-flop.
Right.
Little worried about the one pair of pocket kings, but if that happens, right?
Yeah.
So I check, the limper checks. He leads out for, not leads out, he bets 60, right? I check raise to 200. The other guy folds. Villain snap calls. I already know. I mean,
Well, not to mention, you already bluffed him once, right? Because this also comes back to, even if he didn't have a super strong hand, I mean, people are going to worry about you just doing this and showing nothing over and over again. I mean, especially people who are arrogant enough to think of themselves as a master. I'm sure nobody wants to be seen folding to another bluff.
so, right, especially in front of his friend who just sat down,
Right.
right? So, the turn brings a 6 of clubs. I just jam for probably 500. And, God, it had to have been even a little bit more than that. It was 850.
God almighty.
Yeah, because I remember now. I jammed for 850, not 500. He snap calls. I turn over King 9. He's just heart sinks. You can see. River's a king, giving me a boat. And then...
But, I mean, he snap calls with ace king. That is such a... I mean, if you jam for that much, that's kind of a fold, right?
Yeah, but I know he's never folding.
I
Yeah.
know from your perspective,
Yeah.
but from his perspective, I mean, that is a gigantic pot with just one pair.
Exactly.
I mean, how often are you ever going to be good?
But I mean, there are players like that who play nitty, but then will not fold when they have the ace king and hit one of the ace or the king.
Man, that is...
I've had a few
You want to
players.
talk about a leak right there. That's got to be... I mean, don't get me wrong, ace king's good on that flop, but not that good. I mean, because there's a lot of things that beat you, 8, 9, 8s, 9s. I mean, I guess not a lot of things, but
Yeah,
given
right.
given the action, I mean, I guess it being draw heavy actually helped get the call though too.
Right. So he calls and he gets up to walk away and he says, "Wait. He might not cover you." So then he counts it all out and then tosses him one chip back.
Oh God, that's even better. I would actually rather it be that way.
And then he takes the one chip and throws it at the dealer and says, "Put this in your pocket," and storms off.
Oh God, that's awesome. Especially doing it to somebody like that. I mean, good job.
So, like I
I
said,
mean, this is the only time I will ever say good job calling a Rays King 9 offsuit, but good job.
I told you had to take that into account. The implied odds, the satisfaction odds.
So, the satisfaction. Oh, this is kind of like revenge range, right? But
Exactly.
not revenge, just satisfaction.
But the other thing is, if you know the player's never going to fold ace king when they flop a king.
I guess, but
Yeah,
I don't know, man. That's that's pretty light right there. I mean, yeah, okay, if they're never gonna fold ace king, but I mean, calling them with a dominated hand and praying to God that you flop 2 pair. I guess you could have hit trip 9s. I don't know what you're going for. Yeah.
Happens every day. So, I mean, I was hoping today was one of those every days.
Hey, it was. Good job.
But, yeah, I mean, definitely not profitable. But, I don't know. My whole thought was if I happen to hit the hand I hit, he's going to pay it off in full. So,
Well, I mean, in theory, yeah, 100%. I mean, it was $20 to win. Goddamn, I don't even know how much. It was a gigantic amount.
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, you have an insane implied odds. So, yeah, you can definitely play looser. I'm not sure with dominated hands it usually makes a lot of sense, but
It's like, I'm not putting that on record.
but yeah, do you have a justification for looser calls there? Yeah, you do, but I don't know. For every one hand like this, there's gonna be a lot of hands that get you in trouble.
But, okay, let's say I call the 20, flop king high, and he barrels again. You can just fold. You don't stick
okay.
around with king 9.
Then, I mean, you are just hemorrhaging $20, right?
Yeah, but, I mean, when he pays it off, I like it.
Well, I mean, he paid it off, and it was good, so that hand I love.
Well, I mean, or I'll call him more, maybe not with the king 9, it's not the best, but, with like suited connectors, stuff like that.
Oh, no, completely different story. I mean,
Yeah.
with straight possibilities, flush possibilities, and just not dominate. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, king 9's probably I can agree, probably the worst hand you can show up with.
Yeah.
But, yeah, more like, I mean, suited connectors versus those type of players and stuff like that will just pay off greatly, it seems like.
Oh, well, deep stack, I mean, you can justify a lot more than you can. Because, I mean, if I'm going to do this, I really want a lot of, hands that can make the nuts. I mean, at least 5-6. It can flop,
Right.
3-4-7 or something. But, I mean, hell, in this, if you know what you're up against, yeah, I think you have pretty good odds to do this, obviously, because, I mean, shit, you got paid off a shitload for doing it, so hard to say you should have folded here and not got $1,500. So, yeah, I'll go with that.
Well, especially if you know it's a player incapable of getting away. That's the thing. If it's a player who's capable, then it's not. It's horrible, right? Because it should be a fold every time on that jam.
Yeah, that was my thought. Is I mean, that jam is just, I don't know what in the hell you would ever think you're beating there. I mean,
exactly.
You're really hoping. I mean, King Queen seems. Talk about overplay. Well, I don't know. This is a dude who just overplayed King Queen last night. So, shit. Maybe I am that guy. I don't know.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting hand. And I guess topic to kind of go out on is I had an interesting hand where I had pocket queens in a 4-bet pot, and I mean, I guess kind of like this hand, I got super lucky and spiked my queen. But you too have kind of ran into some weird 4-bet pots because it always seems to be aces, right? I mean,
well, I don't know, because no, not really for me. I mean, I always seem to think it's aces. I will say that. I've been running up into it a lot with jacks. So it happened in Vegas. I 3-bet with jacks at the Aria and then got 4-bet. Did not realize how much odds I had and folded. And it probably should have been a call. I don't know. It was close either way. It happened again when the first night I was at 5-5 when I go with jacks and I get a 4-bet for all in. I folded, and he did show ace king. Yeah, I've been running into it a lot. I guess, especially when I 3-bet with jacks, because you don't have blockers to aces or kings. It's kind of tough. And I don't think there's many 4-bet bluffs, which leads me to you're kind of in a weird spot, because if you call and you're right, then you're still losing 50% of the time. When you call and you're wrong, you're losing 80% of the time. So it's kind of been a tough spot for me lately.
Well, I mean, I could very briefly go over the hand for you. I mean, I had queens. I 3-bet to 100 and got 4-bet to 425. If you have queens, are you ever folding?
Yeah, I would say sometimes I'm folding. I would say I'm not folding every time, though. I don't know. I mean, it's a tough spot. I think there's times I fold, sometimes I call.
I mean, I was as close to folding as I've ever been, and then called. So,
and then, the short pitch of it is you hit a set of queens to crack aces.
Yeah, but like you said, that doesn't really matter. I mean, you still put 425 in.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you either have odds to
Right.
hit your 1 out of 1 out of 10 or so to hit set. I don't know. It's the 4-bet pots are very tough. As I've been 3-betting more, you're running into that more and more, especially at the tougher and tougher games. I mean, but it also depends on the player and table. Because at 1-3, I think it's just an automatic fold if you get 4-bet. I think it's aces or king. I think a lot of times it's ace king that would just call. As it's gone up in limits, I think you have to have that calling range a little bit more.
Man, I'll tell you what. Even dealing with 3-bets, ace queen is just never the move to have in a 3-bet pot.
Oh, 1-3, I hate ace queen in a 3-bet pot. If it's someone who's it's very difficult, because if it's 3-bet from somebody who never 3-bets, it's an automatic fold. If it's a 3-bet from somebody who 3-bets a lot, it's either a call or maybe a 4-bet.
Well, here's my issue with it. Wait, you're 4-betting ace queen? Sometimes?
I tell you what, when I was at 2-5 in Vegas, or some of these very deep stack games where they're 3-betting a lot, I haven't yet, because I don't feel like I've needed to, but I think in some of these tougher deep stack games, you do need a 4-bet bluff sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, true.
I mean, not in the games we're used to. I mean, you're burning money if you're doing that. But as you get in more and more aggressive games, I feel like you do need that in your arsenal.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like every time I call a bet with ace queen, it's just burning money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's definitely the move to fold, usually in these. Because, I mean, you're going to see ace king so often.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, I guess on that note, I'll end another podcast talking about not calling 3-bets with ace queen. Hopefully next week I'll come back with a story of how I called a 3-bet with ace queen again. Yeah?
Maybe you'll be good.
Maybe.
Keep trying it. Eventually you're going to be good.
One of the times I'm going to crack it, and I'll come back and I'll say, you know what? I was wrong all these episodes. Go ahead and make the call. Put the 4-bet in like Clint. All right. This concludes the Texas Poker Podcast. We'll see you guys next week.
That was the Texas Poker Podcast. Go ahead and rack up, add time, and we'll see you next week.